In today's society, we're hung up in this notion or idea that man can influence and develop and take advantage of the environment and natural resources to their own benefit without impact. The fact or the concept that everything is integrated, everything is connected and interrelated, and when you unravel one component of that system, you have problems that ripple down through the system into the future through time and space. If the river could talk,
the river would say to us,
let me flow, let me splash.
Let me do what I should do.
This is my blood. This is flowing through my veins.
I'm part of an entire environment, and I have a part to play in that.
And I can hear her giggling, but I also hear the birds, and I hear the life that's around here.
They all had a voice, and somebody would listen to that voice. They would say, miigwech. In our language, we say thank you. They'd say miigwech for listening to us, because maybe now you'll understand how important it is that we live here and how tied together we all are in this place we're at.
Why not listen to what it's saying?
Anjibima, Dizimguad, Manda, OttaWay.
Oh, I see dinner over there.
Oh, okay. I haven't been in a river in a long time. I love kayaking.
Hey, check out this river over here. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. This reminds me of hanging out with my family.
Awesome.
Ooh, I hope you guys get some trout.
Something bigger than yesterday.
When you think about it, a river is like an artery that feeds lifeblood to all of the ecosystems that it nourishes along its path.
makes sense, right?
So what happens to all of the ecosystems and their creatures when one species pinches the flow of that artery for 100 years?
What might happen if that one species decides to reopen the artery?
Well, that's what's happening here on the Boardman River. It's an awakening of sorts.
Back to a time when this river was called the OttaWay.
So grab your gear and join us as we explore
the story of what happened in this river valley and what's still about to happen.
See you guys later downstream.
Have fun. All right, let's go fishing.
Kind of makes you wonder, who were the first people to call this place home?
Winishmampi, Gantimayajig.
And then we migrated over here maybe 1,200 years ago. So this area is like a Garden of Eden. The Boardman River was our life, really. It gave us food, transportation, all the way to helping with our housing, our living, our foods, everything. The different animals that we could get, the beaver, the furs from them. And so the river itself provided everything that we needed.
It provided us water to drink. It provided us water to take care of our clothing, to bathe in, the moisture for all the trees and the plants that are here, all the animals that come here that we may have used the deer, the rabbit to eat off from. So everything is connected to this water that we used and kept us balanced and helped us survive.
Like most places, European settlers displaced Native Americans and built cities in the best spots, usually at the mouths of rivers.
There wasn't a lot of people here, settlers. But as soon as they started using the Erie Canal, then all of a sudden people from Europe and Finland and all over Ireland were coming directly to Michigan. And so all of a sudden, in the 1850s, there was an explosion of population of people that were here.
Europeans settling into Michigan, they knew what was going on. Native Americans who saw it arrive in their neighborhood simply did not have a clue what they were up against.
And the Indians also never felt that that land was owned by anybody. It was for everybody or the one who possesses it. They don't own that land. It's for their use, to maintain a livelihood.
We know and have always followed the rule that we treat everything as a relative. And if you don't, you make that relative suffer. And when we saw the immigrants, the way they behaved with the water even, dirtying the water when they didn't need to, we knew that they were doing this for their gain at the suffering of everything around them. We had to leave, the pressure got so great, people came in and actually chased us away from where we were living. So we had no choice in the matter.
Tribal communities were taken advantage of because they probably couldn't explain the depth and breadth of connection to the natural world that human beings have and should respect and honor. And then we came in and we just walked right over them and dismissed their beliefs, dismissed their teachings because it wasn't written down. It wasn't proven by some scientific method.
It's cool that there's still some white pines here.
Yeah, they used to stretch as far as the eye could see.
When we were settling the country, it was absolutely critical for us to build the infrastructure. And logging was a major business in Michigan, but there were repercussions.
Huge native white pine trees was the predominant wood that they were after. Cut them with two-man hand saws, transporting them and pulling them to rivers, floating them down the rivers, standing on the logs to make sure they didn't jam, and then getting them to a mill to cut.
So from the 1840s through the 60s, every tree within miles, within 100 miles of here, was gone. Absolutely cut, rolled into the river, along with the sediments that came off that barren hillside and floated in a series of explosions down through town so they could cut them up and send them down to Chicago and have them build it a couple times.
And you can only imagine what kind of devastation that would have on the actual channel shape, the diversity, the morphology, the hydrology, all those key pieces to good habitat for fish.
Because of that devastation, almost every species in the Boardman River was negatively impacted. And one of the repercussions is the elimination of the grayling population in the Boardman River.
All that life that was destroyed, literally destroyed and murdered in that moment. So it didn't just impact us two-leggeds, it impacted that spirit world. And in our Indian way of life, we are connected to that world. We were put here to learn from that and to take care of it.
Where I come from, it's called ууᔑ겸. And ууᔑ겸, it means white pine, and ууᔑ겸 is the river. So we understand that process of the river. And those are very important to us. And when they came in and they clear-cut our white pine, those are like our buffalo to the Western tribes. They took away our livelihood and who we were. And one of our elders said that the white pine, we have not mourned the loss of our white pine. We have not mourned the loss of our white pine.
We know that the invention of electricity reshaped our lives forever, but it also reshaped the ecological lives of rivers across America, including this one.
1881, Edison invents the light bulb. By 1889, hydro dams are going up all over the country. The only power they had in Traverse City at the time was from coal and wood. Right downtown, there was one building with electricity at that time.
As our nation developed, there was a need for the hydroelectric. That was one of the methodologies of growing our electricity, which grows our economy and provides services to our citizens.
Back in 1894, when we constructed the first hydro dam,
The dams were new to the Boardman River. Obviously at that time it looked like a great thing, a way to generate electricity, and electricity is up and coming.
They saw opportunities to utilize natural resources, and they did.
It was just, let's use the resource however we want to use it. Let's abuse the resource, just like the trees that were cut, to get the maximum benefit, dollar benefit out of it.
And that they brought their values and their perspectives of what they wanted out of life and changed it.
And use does not mean abuse or change. And some of the changes that have come through the Boardman Valley have been abusive. Man using his force. Man, American men.
But we don't understand what it did to the river that was naturally there, and the species that did exist there, that no longer exists there, because when we impounded it, we warmed the water. We changed the composition of the landscape. You can't go forward looking in a rearview mirror, and you have to understand that nobody put those dams in place thinking they were going to have negative, adverse effects on our environment. That didn't happen. The dams were an important part of our region at that time. It was important for the people at that time. We've moved beyond that. We know better now. We have better science in place, and we have a better understanding of our natural environment.
So who determines the worth of a river?
It depends on who you ask.
Depending on your perspective.
You'll get 10 different answers.
What entity, what source, what person, what divine spirit?
Depends on who you talk to.
I think people collectively have to make that decision.
If you're asking a question to a human being, the worth of a river is whatever relationship you have to it.
Cold water fisheries is really my thing. I fish for trout, I fish for steelhead.
And I think that's why a lot of fly fishermen fly fish, because it really, the water running around your legs will really remove the stress from your body.
And you don't hear anything but water. Maybe you'll hear birds, a little bit of wind in the trees. You'll never find that in the confines of a city, so it's priceless. There's just no price you can put on something like that.
As a biologist or ecologist, I might determine the worth of a river based on its ability to produce high-quality fisheries, good water quality.
The Boardman River it's a world-class fishery, and there's a reason that it supports a world-class fishery, because it has really, really cold water. And cold water streams are relatively rare throughout Michigan. But cold water streams support fish species that are really sensitive to environmental degradation. Think species like trout and grayling and sculpin and things like that.
The ecologist looks at a river and sees all the connections to everything as we move up and away from the river in the riparian corridor. It absolutely is hundreds of micro ecosystems connected together. You would have to convince me that a river was not a living thing, and I don't think you could do that.
Upstream, there may be the very passive, quiet area, possibly people just enjoying nature sitting there or kayaking down silently. Downtown, we have the social impacts, where we have a different type of use of the water. You have the activity, the bridges going over, people looking at the water, people playing in the water, again, kayaking, a lot more interaction and development around the water. So it's a social aspect of the health of a community to utilize its best assets. And let's face it, the water is the best asset here.
When you look at this river at a community standpoint, it flows right through the center of town. I mean, this river is the heartbeat of Traverse City. I mean, even though it's urbanized, it's still a gem.
You know, There's two sides to every story.
The river provides us hydroelectricity, it provides us fish, it provides us transportation. We're underutilizing a natural resource that's been flowing for hundreds of years, will flow for hundreds more, and we're turning our back on it, so to speak, and we're saying, all you're good for is recreation.
Our alternative education high school campus was located overlooking Sabin Pond.
I was in the Boy Scouts, and I learned to canoe on Brown Bridge Pond, and then eventually, down the river.
We determine the worth of the river. We the people, not necessarily the riverfront owners, the kayakers, the canoers, the tubers, the fishermen, the swimmers, the hikers. We all should have a voice in it. We the people. We the people.
Who has the right to decide? I think that really demonstrates a fundamental difference between tribal culture and views of natural world and, say, the European or non-native.
There's the difference in the values of where we are. In dominant society, there's God, then there's man, and then there might be the trees, the rivers, mountains, plants, and the animals. In our Anishinaabe way of life, there's the Creator. Then there's the mountains, the plants, the rivers, the trees, the animals, and then there's us two-leggeds. All of this was put here before us. So all of this life here is to help us live our ways as a good person, because we were put here to take care of it, not abuse it, not misuse it, but respect it and take care of it so that it's always here to take care of us.
The worth of a river on its own accord is something far beyond the tangible pieces that we as humans can understand.
Who do we ask? Nobody asks the river. Nobody asks the eagle, the otter, the beaver, the deer, the birds. The river is speaking to us, and that's what the Native Americans listen to, is Mother Earth.
And all life is sacred. And we think that it's really important that we allow the river to have a voice in our community for future generations.
Because it has given us life, and it's given us all these generations of human beings that have lived here for millennia after millennia.
We know the river has a voice through us and in our work and the songs and the ceremonies that we do on her behalf, that in her words, we know that she's alive, that the water is alive, and that the spirit of that water, comes to us and talks to us, and that we are speaking on her behalf.
She's happy that we're here today. You can hear her gurgling and bubbling over there, and she's talking. And she's helping us to heal. And so when I listen to her, she's happy, and I can hear her laughter. And she's coming back alive, and she's here for us today. And I'm really grateful for that. And when we sing to her songs, I think of her as a female spirit. Gichi-WīkWedong, Gichi-WīkWedong. Oh, miigwech, miigwech, miigwech.
Why should you care what happens here?
And what's going to happen?
Any river in the country, in the world, has three main purposes. One is to carry water from upstream to downstream. Two is to carry material from upstream to downstream. And three is to support the life that lives within it. And when you put a dam in, you significantly negatively impact all three of them, primarily number two. And so what you get is this dead zone right downstream of a dam, because the only thing that's transported downstream of a dam is water. And it's not all the other critical components of life that are required for a world-class healthy river system.
So when you pinch off an ecosystem like you've done here, where you've constructed 4 dams, instead of having one large river system, now you've got fragments. Fish have the biggest impact because now you've disconnected populations. You've got genetics that don't refresh themselves, you've got fish that can't pass into certain stretches where maybe they've historically spawned. So it's a big deal when you fragment a river system like that.
We have thousands of lakes in this region. We have one cold water river system that feeds the Grand Traverse Bay. 30% of the water in the bay comes from this river. 193 million gallons a day that feeds into the bay that everyone loves and cherishes comes through this river system. The quality of the water in this system is paramount to the quality of the water in our bay.
So in 2003, the license for Brown Bridge Dam was set to expire. And in order to generate hydropower, you have to have a license.
If you're the owner of a dam, you're required to comply with the dam safety regulations. Engineering studies were done, and it was discovered that these 3 hydropower producing facilities didn't have adequate spillway for the current regulations. And so in order to add that additional spillway capacity, they were looking at multi-million-dollar projects. And the reason these dams don't produce electricity any longer is that it basically became uneconomical. The hydroelectric potential is the product of the amount of flow in the river and the height of the dams. These dams did not produce enough energy to power Traverse City. These facilities were about 1 megawatt apiece. That's 10,100 watt light bulbs. I work in the dam safety regulatory community, and our job is to have safe dams. And a big part of that dam safety is making sure that you have enough spillway so that when the flood comes, it goes around, over, or through the dam safely and doesn't cause the dam to fail. You've got a structure here that's 50 or 60 feet tall, impounding 80 or 90 acres of water upstream of a highly populated area. We've seen a number of extreme storm and flood events just over the past few years. If we had 20 inches of rain in a 24-hour period here on the Boardman River system, it's likely that every one of these dams would fail and starts heading into Boardman Lake and downstream into Traverse City. I would expect there would be loss of life if these dams were to fail.
So thousands of folks, hundreds of hours in meetings got together and looked at 84 different options and decided on this system the best thing to do was remove 3 of the dams and modify the 4th.
It was the city and the county's decision to take the Boardman River Dams Committee's recommendation to remove the dams. And April 9th of 2009, in a joint meeting between the county and the city voted to proceed with dam removal, and the city commission voted to authorize the city manager to begin looking for funds to remove dams, and their decision came later.
It really is a dichotomy that we saw here. 94 years ago, humans built this dam for their own purposes, for their own monetary gain, and to give themselves energy in town. Now, 94 years later, we're removing it because we realize that we need to restore the systems that give ourselves and this area the lifeblood that it deserves. We need to have this water flowing free again.
What happens when you have so many stakeholders?
Yeah, they all want something different.
Is this on? Maybe you better shut it off for a second.
And it'll just blow your mind as to how a committee could totally ignoring the surveys that said, we the people want to.
Fishermen are going to lose because the kayaks are going to push it.
A little piece of paradise will slip through our fingers. We had no control.
It's wrong in so many ways that
Most people think that a project that's removing 3 dams and modifying a 4th is a big physical project, but really it's a people project.
But I think, what is the impact of what we do here to the other 2 dams?
It was the 4th time in history since those dams were built that the community had a discussion on what should we do with the dams. So the community wasn't really ready to address an issue of this magnitude using the same process that we've always used to address these issues. It was absolutely critical for us to actively engage everybody and anybody that wanted to participate in this process. So instead of a top-down process where there's a decision maker at the top and sometimes input's taken from the bottom, we flipped it. So everybody that wanted to be involved, they could take an active role in not only the outcome, but forming and shaping the outcome.
You have no idea what is being stolen through this organized group of people, not their fault.
As you can probably imagine, there was a camp, a silo of folks that were adamantly opposed to doing anything regarding the dams. They wanted to keep them, they wanted to continue to operate hydropower.
And most participated in public event that
The river provides us hydroelectricity. The smart person says, use them to their fullest. Use them until you can't use them anymore. We're turning our back on the most logical, natural thing that we have. We're going to be beating ourselves for not having taken the time to study, should we have saved them, because it's going to be cost prohibitive to restore them. And we're going to have left ourselves with a limited source of energy.
Keep in mind that the system of dams here were really low maintenance as by design originally. Single person that took care of them all. They're self-maintaining. You know, whether or not it was really cost effective to produce it is a function of numbers.
We knew that there was a lot of passion. We knew that there were a lot of opinions out there, and we not only encouraged, we actively sought out diverse opinions.
The Brown Bridge Advisory Committee was a committee that was formed by the city to advise the city manager on issues concerning the Brown Bridge Quiet Area. It was very obvious to me that anybody from the public who had anything to say that was opposed to the dam removal project were not treated the same way as people who were in favor of it. And so the whole thing was biased towards dam removal right from the very beginning. It just made me feel helpless. Made me feel helpless.
We would send them certified letters. We would go to their homes and almost bug them, you know, say, and give them flyers, say, please come and give your thoughts and give your opinions. One of them was property owner issues and property owner rights, because that was a big question that a lot of folks had. If the dams are removed, what happens to my property rights? What happens to my property value?
I've lived here for 26 years, knowing that it was a nature preserve when I bought it. The commission decided that they wanted to remove the dams, and we tried to save it because it's part of a nature preserve. It's been dedicated to the people. There were hundreds upon hundreds of questions that were never answered until like the last day, and then there was never any time for the people along the river, the homeowners, property owners, to rebut any of their conclusions to these questions. And that's the way it ended. They're gonna remove them. We didn't have anything to say about it. And our little piece of paradise was slipped through our fingers. We had no control. Instead of the river's edge being 45, 50 feet away from the front of my house, now it's 650 feet away from the front of my house. I have no frontage. There's no compensation. It's disheartening for sure. There's nothing you can do about it, and you're watching everything die around you. Yeah, it tore a piece of me right out.
Well, there's always two sides to every story.
Grand Traverse County and the city of Traverse City really made a leap of faith. And the county and the city still maintain their autonomy for the decision-making process, but they also allowed the community to form this Boardman River Dams Committee that embraced anybody and everybody that wanted to participate in any meetings. We actually had, from 2005 to 2009, when the decision was made, we had over 200 public meetings. We had over 1,000 people actively participate. We used that input to form the foundation for the engineering and feasibility study to look at the pros and cons of removing, modifying, or keeping the dams. If you were interested in the project, you volunteered and you were on that team. You helped form the project and you helped form and develop how we were going to assess the pros and cons of dam removal, retention, or modification.
It was never one person, it was never 5 people, if it was never 40 people. It was literally hundreds of people involved in this.
In my mind, we could not provide a good, comprehensive, succinct recommendation to the county and the city without having all of those diverse opinions involved.
I like people that are passionate. I like people that stand up for what they believe. And a lot of times that's what you see. But a lot of times what you have to do is get past that emotion. And there's nothing wrong with emotion. You have to get past that and look at the science.
Over 5 years, those 80-some-odd options that we talked about were whittled down to 3 and then finally 1. The final recommendation was to remove the 3 upper dams and modify the lower dam.
And I think that the environmental aspects of the Boardman had a voice through all of the environmental experts that participated in the project. And it had a voice above and beyond the environmental aspects. It had a voice that also incorporated human uses, so the social uses, the recreational aspects, the tourism aspects, and in order to sustain not only the environmental aspects of the Boardman River into the future, but also serve as an environmental foundation to sustain and enhance the economic prosperity of the region.
After years of work, on October 6, 2012, they finally put their plan into action.
It was also a day that suddenly turned into their worst fears.
And the wife and I said the biggest fear we had was they were going to breach it.
We didn't know if we would have a catastrophic failure, which means would the whole dam go and all the water come out of the pond?
I had a great deal of concern that we were going to lose the entire southern embankment and have a completely uncontrolled washout.
Saw everything, basically my project, my job, my home, I live on this river, going down the tubes all at one time.
And there were concerns about having to evacuate the entire river valley. The plan was to draw down the pond to a manageable level and then construct a weir-type facility so that the pond could be lowered 6 inches at a time.
We had the pond drawn down 13 feet and had another 20 feet to go.
We did all the planning that we possibly could. When you are working in a natural environment, there are things that you just absolutely cannot plan for.
First stop log was removed. There was a cascading effect that was unanticipated that resulted in a fairly catastrophic failure.
But here's a geyser coming out of the center of the dewatering structure, and I'm like, this isn't good. That geyser soon became a roaring river within minutes. I took boulders 2 to 3 feet in diameter and just knocked them together and threw them around like pool balls. That sound I'll never forget of those boulders just pounding together.
2 minutes after we saw the initial rush of water, we called 911, kicked in the emergency services, and it was like absolute bedlam for the next 12 hours.
So he called us and told us that there's going to be a flood. We backed the car into the driveway, we took a few valuables that we have and put them all in the car, and we were ready to make a run for it. And I thought it was going to be a big wave, but it wasn't. The river just started going up, and I mean, you could see it going up. And it went up 4 feet in about 45 minutes. It never quite got up to the house. I don't think most people have the appreciation for the power of the river.
There were trucks hauling in large stone to drop in the river to try to slow up that energy. That happened for 5 or 6 hours during the day. At some point in the mid-afternoon, things were under control again. And what happened, it took about 12 hours for the water to work its way underneath the watering structure and out. So we had a rapid release, but not a catastrophic failure. We released what was supposed to be released in 20 days in about 6 hours. It raised the elevation of the water about 5.5 feet through the whole system. It flooded some homes, it damaged some property. It was very disappointing to the whole design team and all of us watching it happen, but no one got hurt.
When the dam was breached upriver, people downtown, they didn't even know there was a problem. This dam held all the water back. All they did was get a little flow as it gently went through the dam.
The most disappointing part was certainly the failure of the temporary dewatering structure, which has made it extremely difficult to continue with phases 2, 3, and 4. Every day since that happened, I think about it, and I wonder what the project would be like if it wasn't for that. I kind of appreciate the fact that we all got through it and continue to stay together, and the project moves on. That has something to be said for it. But that instant and the resulting lawsuits were very disappointing.
It's kind of a nice day out though, so don't know if we're really going to catch anything, but I wonder what it takes to restore a river.
Can it even really be restored? I believe that you can have a rebirth, or a river can be reborn. So when you look at it from the human perspective, if the blood in your veins isn't free to run, how it hurts your body physically. And so when you can make that same connection to the river, that for many years the river's vein was clogged and now it's free, and how much healthier life and all of the plants and animals that will benefit greatly from the river being able to run freely again.
Now is the time to try to recover the beauty, and it won't be the same, and maybe it will take a long time to heal, but everything starts with that first step as you go through life. That's what we try to teach our children, that's what we try to teach our community. You need to recover and come back to the way that was given to you, the understanding of your path in life.
And there's always 2 perspectives or more. And again, some people are going to be happy and some people will be unhappy.
It's definitely a hard conversation when you're talking to someone who, grew up fishing Brown Bridge Pond, or they grew up fishing Boardman Pond.
I taught my daughter to fish in Brown Bridge Pond 20 years ago. My dreams were squashed when that pond was drained. My hopes were beaten down when that dam was removed. My memories of what I did in that pond were removed. It hurts me to think about that being gone every time I walk down there.
So I was very upset. The family was upset over it. I see it still as a mistake because it took 50 years of good fishing away from me, and it took 50 years of good habitat for animals and for kids to come and go.
Before the Brown Bridge Dam was removed and the pond was drained, that was the richest piece of wildlife habitat in this region. And during the migration in the spring and the fall, that pond would be just covered with ducks, all kinds of ducks. And you could see deer, you could see fawns in the spring along the shoreline, you could see otters and mink, lots of muskrats. turtles and frogs and all kinds of amphibians. It was just a wildlife paradise. And they sacrificed it to get this dam removed.
And then you still have the naysayers that want to look back at that, and those that still harbor anger about what happened and throw stones from the sidelines instead of becoming part of the solution. And so that part has been very frustrating.
To restore the basic fundamental function of that Boardman River that makes it so unique and makes it such a world-class fishery, yes, that is doable. And that is what is being done through this Boardman Dams project. We are restoring those basic functions, the functions of moving material down the river, the functions of providing real cold, clean water to these species that are so revered throughout the state and throughout the country, such as the brook trout. Those basic fundamental functions of the river can definitely be restored, and they are being restored through this process.
When people think of rivers, they think of their relationship to the river. They never think of the river's relationship to what's going on around them. Everything is people-centric. It's all the way I feel about this river looks. No one really looks at it, or very few people look at it from the river's point of view. It's flowing in a place that it hasn't flowed in 100 years, and I just think the river's smiling. I really do. I honestly think that you take all the people stuff out of it, and this is the best thing that we could have done for the river. And that's really the bottom line. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, not only to restore the river, but to watch it come back.
It takes time. They aren't patient enough to wait to see the end result when we all know good things take time. I mean, this idea of instant gratification haunts us.
For Brown Bridge Dam upstream, there are no trees. Again, it was an impoundment, and now it's a river, and there's no trees for a while, so you have to get the trees back.
Since the pond is no longer here, we're here with a unity group from the Grand Traverse Band, ODaaWaa and Chippewa Indians, and the youth are in here planting right now today 100 Gichi, which is cedar. Putting in the cedar here will help to replenish what used to be here. This is what made this such a healthy environment, was the cedars that walked right up to the edge of the river, all the way down through this watershed. To me, it's an honor to be here at this spot and be here working with the youth of the Grand Traverse Band. I believe it's important to get the youth involved in the restoration, because when you're actually planting a tree, that brings you into a connection with Mother Earth by planting that. Then you start to realize as a Native youth your responsibility towards our mother, and that you can have an ability to help improve things around here.
Within 2 years at Brown Bridge, I can take virtually anybody that was against the project, because they were looking at a black, stump-strewn field, essentially, and now see this emerald green, vigorous valley. And they'll remark commonly how quickly that came back.
And this is exactly what we had hoped to see. Revegetation in places that we haven't had to plant at all. In other places we are planting because we want to accelerate that revegetation.
The irony of this whole project was, when it was started, was yes, dam removal opened up fish passage. But the irony is that we try to manage sediment so it wouldn't go downstream, because there was a lot of sediment up there. I think we excavated the old river channel, 260,000 cubic yards of sediment. That would be going downstream. But we actually took it out mechanically and moved it.
When you release and distribute energy in the form, in this case, of organic matter, it serves as the building blocks of a fish community. We fertilize Grand Traverse Bay. It's an oligotrophic system, meaning that it's really low productivity, very clear waters. One of the issues there is the fact that you don't have nutrients in suspension for the ecology in that system, where you have zooplankton and phytoplankton that are in the water column. Instead, all the energy is tied up in the bottom of that lake, in the zebra mussels, which are invasive, in the cladophora, which is an invasive plant species. It's a filamentous algae
all that energy is locked up in the bottom. So when you introduce energy in suspended form, it actually helps fertilize or improve the productivity. Improves the numbers, improves the volume, improves even the size.
The rebirth of a river happens one step at a time. Let's see if it's working.
As part of the project, we have to monitor and evaluate the impacts or the changes in the river and the biological community in particular to understand what kind of positive impacts that dam removal and habitat restoration might have. So this university offered the services of students to help us collect fishery data.
When it comes to catch and release, there's more than one way to find out what's really in the river.
So we were looking at the species composition, their growth, their abundance, and as it changes through time.
Brown trout.
By doing that every year, before and after the restoration actions occur, we start to understand how much and how significant the change is, whether it's positive or negative. What we expect and what we are indeed seeing is a positive change in the fish community.
Fisheries. This is a brook trout.
A fish.
Brown trout.
Brown trout are not native to this region. Brook trout are, and typically we see smaller numbers of brook trout in these larger portions of the river and more brown trout. However, we're seeing an actual equalization of those two populations. And the fact that we see more brook trout abundance compared to brown trout is a positive thing because that species requires very high water quality.
More so what we're seeing is fish in a piece of a river that there haven't been fish in a long time. So really what's important is to have people out here saying, yeah, this river is coming back strong and it's coming back fast.
What we have discovered is that the stream downstream of where the old dam is actually repairing itself and has done a lot so far. One, the water is much colder, which is great for trout.
When you see a brook trout in a river in Michigan, you know it's good water. You know it's cool water, you know it's clean water. They're not a very tolerant species. And they're our state fish, right? So they're kind of a treasured species. And when we came in here before the dam was removed, we would see great numbers of brown trout and a few brook trout. Let's say 5 brown trout for every 1 brook trout. And since the dam has come out, we've slowly seen that change to the point where last year we were 50-50. Half of our catch was brown trout and half of our catch was brook trout. When we saw that shift, even without looking in the temperature data, we knew something significant had happened in this stretch because now you know the fish community is actually responding to that too.
Maybe we never will get back to that point of the way it was. And maybe the species of trees and bushes that lived along the river that got drowned when it was dammed up. But restored means that the other relatives have a chance to live better. Their quality of life improves. It really isn't about us. It's about everything that surrounds us, like Fish Nation, Deer Nation, Bird Nation, all the living things, and then generations to come. And so seeing that river being restored to a degree is enough to make me feel real good about it and feel good about the people and the organizations that did that. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes more than a village to bring this earth back and to clean it up. And so I ask other natives when I get a chance, what kind of an ancestor will you be? And that's a big question that everyone should ask themselves.
I think the river is going to be beyond our expectations. I think she's going to glow, she's going to gleam, and she's going to be more beautiful than she ever was.
Sure, we care.
But if you don't paddle or fish this river, why should anyone else care what happens here?
If we get to the point where all of these systems flowing into Lake Michigan are reconnected, they're healthier, they're putting clean, cold, fresh water out into Lake Michigan, the whole Great Lakes Basin benefits from that.
The next step in the process is to remove the Boardman Dam. That'll be followed by removal of the Sabin Dam, and then followed by modifications to the Union Street Dam, which will provide fish passage. Selective fish will be able to access 211 miles of the Boardman River, which they were not able to access before because the dams are in the way. The Corps of Engineers performed a detailed study. We're involved with the design, and we're going to be overseeing the construction to remove these dams on the river and to provide ecosystem restoration throughout this stretch of the Boardman River. Well, when you look at the Boardman Dam, there are several engineering challenges associated with removing such a structure. Number one, there's a roadway that's going right over top of it. We're going to have to deal with that. The other thing that you don't see, which is the earthen berm structure, which is actually what we're going to be removing and relocating the Boardman River through, which is its historic location. And so we're confident that we'll be able to remove these dams in a safe, efficient, and cost-effective manner.
The Boardman is unique in the respect that we've got a couple of structures that are going to stay in place. We have the Boardman Weir, which is right downtown. We harvest salmon, both coho and chinook, out of that facility. And we have the Union Street Dam, which will be modified to allow for fish passage. But using those two structures, we have the ability to fine-tune what species we're allowing to pass up here. We definitely have our eyes on native species like white sucker, smallmouth bass, lake trout, sturgeon. That's a big one for us right now.
So taking out a lot of these dams has created a great opportunity in this river, and that's where the Great Lakes Fishery Commission has stepped in and is looking at the dam at the end, the Union Street Dam, which is the last barrier to sea lamprey, as a great potential site to be able to test out new opportunities to be able to sort fish and manage fish passage. If we potentially put in a below the water level viewing screen, you can see what the fish are doing, how they're behaving, how they're reacting to all these different types of situations. So to be able to have a project that really focuses on native fish passage as well as control of an invasive species is kind of like the holy grail of fish passage projects. I see this site as an excellent opportunity to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers that you can see something in the ground and see how it happens, see the scientific process in action.
This project will serve as a template for communities that are facing very similar issues. There are over 79,000 large dams in the country, over 2,500 large dams in Michigan. Almost every single community has some sort of a dam. And so from that perspective, the process that we use for the Boardman Dams project is transferable.
Really, this project is a true case study in project partnership. This project would not be happening without all these intergovernmental agencies working together for a common goal. The leadership role that the Grand Traverse Band has taken on this project has been something that I've never seen before. Not only that, understanding and working with the tribe and really beginning for the first time in my own life to realize the issues that they face, the determination they have to restore this environment has really been something that I'll take away, and it's going to last with me for a long time.
I've always admired the Native Americans for their philosophy as far as how they treat, Mother Earth. But to meet those folks and work side by side with them was really an honor.
And bottom line is, if we didn't have them here, we probably wouldn't be as far along, or we wouldn't be getting this project done, period.
I do know that the respect and the admiration for the tribes was immense through this project as a result of their deep, deep commitment, not only to the Boardman watershed, but to this project as a whole and to the community.
I think it's a huge testament to just how dedicated to natural resources the tribe is, and they don't hold a grudge against the fact that hundreds of years ago their community was displaced from this region in order to build the things that now we're trying to undo. And now here we are asking for help, and the tribe is stepping up to the plate. They just understand the benefit to the natural resources, and that trumps everything in this situation.
They are so integrally tied to that resource that I think we can learn from them.
We look ahead to 7 generations. We make decisions based on not today, but based on the impact they'll have in the future. When you think like that, and you remember that you have to honor 7 generations ago because somebody thought of you that far ahead, it gives you a different perspective. And looking at the Boardman River Dam's restoration project and doing what's best for this river and our environment, and you really truly believe inside of your heart that you have to make decisions today that are going to be the best for the future 7 generations, and you have to carry yourself and show honor to where you are in the here and now because somebody thought of you, it's not an insurmountable goal. You can do that.
It's been a struggle in our community trying to ensure that our knowledge and our way of life has been shared. That I think sometimes there's been a misunderstanding between Native and non-Native peoples, that we really have the same goal to ensure that our natural resources are taken care of, but our understanding for the reasons may be a little different. And I think now, today, finally, Native and non-Native people are realizing that we have the same purpose and goal.
The ultimate thing is that we put aside everything, and we want to work with you. This is what a Native American is all about, giving. And we have given a lot, and we haven't expected a lot back.
We came together as a people, and I'm talking the non-Native and Native people, came together as a people and thought what was best for the water.
We can't say goodbye in our language. We can say Bamapi. I will see you again, or I will see you later. This Mother Earth, this river, the animals and the fish and everything that we have, this is a part of us, and so we're not letting it go. And we believe that Bamapi, I will see you later, it will still happen, it will still exist. This river is beautiful, and it's what makes Grand Traverse great.
We do it for the water, for the sons and daughters. Do it for the water, 'cause water is life. 7 generations running out of patience. 5 corporations causing hydration. Tired of broken treaties, tired of all the greedy. Taking never feeding, Mother Earth is overheating. Don't hurt me, brother, when I stand for our mother. Gotta love each other, take good care of one another. 'Cause water is life, each sacred drop. Water is life, each sacred drop. Water is life, each sacred drop.